To actually say it's recording. And hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Copter Cast, the only video game show. I'm joined once again by a friend of the show, recurring guest.
Hello.
You might know them from previous episodes, or you watched any episodes of Paranormal Park and be like, I know a real person that's like Barney.
Exactly, that is me.
I'm joined by Carolyn, or Agent Mobius if you're in Disneyland.
That's me. Hello, everybody. How are you? Oh, it's nice to be back. This is an awesome episode because I get to learn all about the Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Direct Showcase from Debbie.
Yep. And I mean, yeah, and as we were talking about before we hit the recording button, the sequel to Breath of the Wild has got a title and a release date now.
Yes.
Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and it'll be released May 12th, 2023. And we're not really sure what it's about yet, but we got a trailer and we saw Link flying, jumping, skydiving, Skyward Sword style.
Mm-hmm.
And flying on what looked like to be a manta ray made out of shiny bricks.
Did you get a Pokemon vibe from that? Because I kind of got a mild Pokemon vibe from that.
I mean, I think I've seen. It reminds me a little bit of Mantines.
Okay, but we need a shiny Mantine. I was like, all right, okay.
Yeah. And hopefully, I'm just hoping we get some more of Link's shark husband in this one too.
Okay, now it's been a while since I played Breath of the Wild. Remind me about the shark husband because I need a reminder because that's amazing.
Well, back when the game was like fresh in everyone's brains, they're seeing the new characters, and like one of the characters you get while you're traveling through the kingdoms, you go to the Zor Kingdom, and like all of them look kind of like shark people. And
Yes.
one
Okay.
of them, yeah, and one of them is Sidon, who is about. Since I'm gonna make this a unit of measure now, one Lady Dimitrescu tall.
I like that unit of measurement.
And just because he's a very handsome shark man, and people just started drawing like fan art of Link being a disaster gay because that's always funny.
Link being a disaster gate is canon, though. I don't tell me otherwise. Nobody from Nintendo told me otherwise. I refuse to believe it. It's made even funnier. No. Picture that. Did you see? There was an article today about an AI that drew Tom Holland totally randomly as Link for a live action Zelda movie. So putting all of this together just tells me that there needs to be a live action Zelda movie, and Shark King, Shark Husband needs to be a thing in it. So
Yep, and like let's say something that took me by surprise, and I'm excited because I got the first one in the series in my collection finally. Square Enix is rolling out a sequel to Octopath Traveler.
I have never played Octopath Traveler.
It's just somehow even prettier it looks even prettier than the first one, which is saying a lot because the first one is very pretty. And this has also been a big thing in this direct is like it's kind of been like the Nintendo Direct of like farming simulators because we've gotten a lot of them. Let me just get like a list.
If we're talking farming simulators, are we talking Animal Crossing style simulators, or are we talking, Starcross Valley, Stardew Valley, not Starcross Valley? I'm just bitter because two of I attempted to romance Sebastian in Stardew Valley and it never worked. So that's where the Starcrossed part came in. So are we talking like that, or when you say farming simulator, what are we talking?
Let's see, get a whole big old list of them. Let's see. Well, first is, Harvest Moon, which I guess is like rebranded as Story of Seasons because I don't know, a naming dispute or whatever. And like a lot of people are very excited about that because I think for the first time in the series, there's like male, female, and non-binary options when you're making your weird character. And
Yes.
there's also same-sex marriage options, which I think everyone pretty much needed like that boost of good brain chemicals. And
Yes.
everyone pretty much everything I've seen was cheering. Let's see, we got Fae Farm, which is like a farm sim and an RPG, where all the
Are you
characters.
farming fae? Are you farming fairies?
I don't know, and like a cartoony sort of farming simulator with like RPG stuff in it. Yeah, 4-player, and it looks neat. Let's see. Nope. I'll just wait for that to. Let's see. We got Fatal Frame, also known as the Spooky Ghost with Camera games.
I love Fatal Frame. Fatal Frame was my childhood in a way more than my long lost love of funny bear game. Like Fatal Frame and Resident Evil Fatal Frame was my introduction to weird game mechanics when it comes to survival horror. So that one has a soft place in my heart. This is why I'm glad you were actually paying attention during the Nintendo Direct, because like I'm sitting here making a mental list of games I now need to buy.
Yeah, and let's say just even more farming simulators. We got, let's say, Harvest Stella, which is by Square Enix. So it's got an like a town simulator, but with RPG stuff. But because it's Square Enix, the RPG stuff is like Final Fantasy levels of intense. And there's a demo that lets you transfer your save stuff to the full game, and that's always neat. That's something I'm excited about because I've seen this at many a PAX. Just Tunic is just basically like, what if Legend of Zelda, but you're a fox? That's coming to the Switch, and I've been waiting for that. Let's see, It Takes Two is coming to the Switch. Just weird, whimsical allegories for marital troubles. Let's say Front Mission, like these I'm excited about. Front Mission First, which is
Okay.
like a like a tactical, like a, well, not real time strategy, but a grid based. You take the person and you put them somewhere on the grid type of game, but instead of just regular boring people, they're mechs. Because anything and everything can be better with giant robots.
Facts. Nothing but facts.
I mean, which is, I assume, but yeah, everything's better with robots, which is what the people who made the Transformers comics did when they made like 2 transgender Transformers, which is it's just an inherent, it's nice to hear, and it's also kind of funny because it's a bit of a pun.
Transformers.
Yeah.
My mom used to say that she knew I was trans because I was always into Transformers, and I have never had the heart to tell her she's both right and wrong and on the money and not on the money. So I was like, okay. Oh, but which ones were trans?
Let's see. It was in the IDW comics. Now we're going down a rabbit hole, as I knew we would. Transformers, IDW, and characters. Eric.
These are important rabbit holes, folks. These are very important.
Yeah.
At least to me, because I always forget things. I have the memory of a goldfish.
Let's see. Like I had to look this up because I can't remember names to save my life. But and a node, as in like a node in a node in like a computer or whatever, and lug, like according to this website, are according to comic book resources, are literal transformers. Heh. Uh, let's see. Uh, yep, and like the IDW, I think in Transformers Lost Light, I'd need to look up the specific issue because I remember an article coming up about it. But, I remember there's the panels they included when this was new. They're just like talking about it, and they like telling their fellow Transformers why, and because they're like I don't know giant ass robots that have to like replace their organs and lungs every time they get shot at because they're robots. Like no one had a problem. Like no one had a problem with it. Also, as a bit of unintentional comedy, they said that while all the other Autobots were like chilling in a bar, but it's a Transformer-sized bar, so it's like giant when you think about it.
Just a huge bar full of giant robots, a literal aircraft carrier hangar. I love it.
Yeah, let's see. Uh, yep, and at least yep, there's also a lot of and yep.
Copter cast, where you will learn as I learn about cool things that Debbie knows.
This is true. And yep, a lot of more other Transformer stuff, which we will get into some other time. Let's see.
The most important part is I now know that there were official Transformers and not just the pun and slightly ironic coincidence of giant mechs that turn into robots. So
yep, and oh yeah, and like RC, which is she's one of my favorite Transformers because she's in the 1985 movie. Like in the comics, I think she is lesbian, and Optimus Prime is like literally throwing himself into the fire in order to save her and her girlfriend.
I remember RC from she didn't have a big role, but I remember RC from the movie.
Yep.
From the new movie. She was in the new movie. I remember this now. Okay. But you're telling me that everything is better with mechs. Sadly, Nintendo Switch has not caught on to this yet, and there is no Transformer style game. But what other games does Nintendo have?
Let's see. Coming in 2023, which I'm excited about because is SpongeBob SquarePants: The Cosmic Shake.
Yes.
Early this year. Wait, let me check my list of video games that I have on my person at all times. Let's say, yep, early this year I played the remake of SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom on the Switch. And that's just awesome because it's just like the cartoon, but platforming.
Okay.
And yep, it was great. You get to visit Jellyfish Fields, the beach, the place where they go sand snowboarding. And I have no idea what the crap this one is about, but it seems to be just more of that, but even better.
The last encounter I had with SpongeBob in a game was the Nickelodeon Smash Brothers clone, which the SpongeBob characters were the best part. Playing Patrick was one of the best parts, fighting against the other Nicktoons. I don't even know if anybody really remembers that because it came and went so quick since everybody's doing a Smash Brothers clone, but such a good game.
Let's see, some I'm interested in because friend of friend of the show, Ben the Destroyer, who will join us in a future time. I'm determined. Like I remember him playing this a lot back when I was little and looked even more like Chucky from Rugrats than I do now. Tales of Symphonia is coming to the Switch.
What? Okay, that one oh my god. No. Really?
Yeah, it's coming to the Switch, and I remember it because I think one of the characters, I think like the main character maybe, is voiced by the guy what voiced Robin in the Teen Titans cartoons. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yep, that's how I remember that. I'm excited because you know what little I remember him playing of it looked really interesting. Let's see. Um, do up.
Well,
Um,
I could come up with a game I'm excited for, but it's not in the Nintendo Switch. Well, no. I had two things I wanted to bring to you, Debbie, and
okay.
one of the big ones was I went to Comic-Con 2022, and I had the privilege of interviewing. This is not a Switch game, however, I had the privilege of interviewing the cast of Gotham Knights, and those guys made me so excited for that particular video game, mostly because this was right after Stray had come out for the PS5. And my thing with Stray is that obviously you play as a cat. So one of the questions I naturally asked was, will there be some sort of similar mechanic, perhaps, to the cat, since everybody loves the idea of playing as an animal? And what I was told discreetly, not discreetly, but it was sort of like, they sort of insinuated it, but it probably isn't, but it might be, is that there would be something like that coming. And I'm going, do you know what I think would be really freaking cool? If you could play a game as Ace the Bat Hound, right? You could fight crime. You could take a literal bite. It would be the DC equivalent of Spider-Man, the Orange Cat, and Miles Morales. You could literally play as a giant dog taking a bite out of crime, and then like teaming up with another player, because they had a multiplayer mode. And the biggest thing that they said about Gotham Knights that really excited me was that it is more than just a fighting game. It is also a morality game. So your choices affect how the people of Gotham see you. And you're not just playing to like defeat the enemies that are, sort of coming up in Batman's stead. Now I'm not going to spoil the story, but they're sort of coming up. They're aiming to take over Gotham. You're in this position. You have to win the hearts and minds of the people of Gotham, in addition to taking on Batman's rogues gallery. And I was like, I'm obsessed with that. But I honestly think I could do so much better if I was Ace the Bat Dog, because honestly, playing as an animal in a video game has become one of my favorite game mechanics. So that's what I'm excited for. I am really excited for people to get a look at Gotham Knights, because that's going to be really, really cool. And then also, Debbie, my friend,
Yeah.
do you want to wait to talk Pokemon, or can we talk Pokemon now?
Yeah, let's talk Pokemon, which, at the time,
What do you
2 months away.
2 months away?
Mhm.
Which one are you? What is your take on the legendaries?
Um, I'm excited for it. I think that the fact that they're motorcycles is awesome, but it's because, last year I made the decision to buy like the box set of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D, is also known as Card Games on Motorcycles, the anime. And so,
Real? What? Really? Card games on motorcycles?
yeah, yep. So yeah, I'm excited about it. It looks friggin' gorgeous, and I'm just like I was as friggin' psyched and surprised as everyone else when just as I was like earlier this year we got Pokemon Legends Arceus, in which you literally do the will of God, who is a horse.
Oh,
Like,
hail Arceus! Oh, hail Arceus!
like that's not like that's literally the synopsis of the game and a plot of one of the movies. Yeah, now we're getting Pokemon Spain, which will be neat. We've seen, like Tom and I have talked about this. Gotta recap them all. We're excited about the new, like each game has its own like main Pokemon professor. It's one's like caveman woman who reminds me of a character from Fire Emblem Fates. And the other is the other people, like the one from Pokemon Violet looks like that maybe Photoshop photo of that man who is just so handsome that his jaw is like almost entirely square.
Yes, I know exactly. The Chad, the ultimate Chad. Yes. I love the jokes that she's just like absolutely feral and he's like trying to sell people NFTs. But what I wanted to ask you was,
Hmm.
which game are you planning on playing first? Because I have been asking people this and I want to see, I'm not going to tell you why until you answer, but I want to see where people are coming from on this. Which game will you be playing first?
I have no idea. I mean,
If you had to pick, just
uh,
think about the whole thing in your mind. Take into account the legendaries. Take into account all of it, and then just off the cuff, which one would you pick to play first?
probably Scarlet, just because red is my favorite color.
You, my dear Debbie, are a rarity and a gem. You are a ruby, rarity, and a gem because almost every single person I have talked to has been, I'm playing Violet first. And I'm like, is it because the legendary actually looks like a motorcycle as opposed to Big Red, who has four giant paws and a motorcycle body? And I'm like, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But that's just it. It's like, why does I'm gonna call them Big Red and Big Purple because they remind me of Tron cycles. They have names, and their names escape me at the moment. So we have Big Red and Big Purple, and Big Red is a beautiful little critter, and I love that he can climb up mountains. But his body is a motorcycle, and it's so it's. I have asked like 8 people about this, completely not even thinking about it, and 7 of them until you, I kid you not, have said they're playing Violet first. And I'm like, is it because Big Red has arms and the motorcycle body isn't developed yet? And then purple is just, your basic Tron bike. So when I phrase it like that, does your decision still stick with red?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Mad respect. Mad respect.
And I'm just like the new Pokemon we've seen is just like they've won me over like as quickly as Wooloo did in Sword and Shield. Let's see, we got Lechonk.
Lechonk.
It's basically like what if Pudgy Pig from Power Rangers is allowed to live a normal life. We got Fido,
The best. I
the
love
donut
Fido.
dog. And let's see, we got Smoliv, or as Tom has taken to calling it, Badoo with anxiety disorder.
Okay.
And for the starter, like I'm getting Fuecoco, the apple
Which
gator.
Applegator? So okay, here's the thing about the starters. What I am torn between
Mm-hmm.
Sprigatito, who I have seen called Weed Cat, and Quackly, who I've been calling Trans Masked Duck because Quack he's Trans Masked Duck. He's got
Mm-hmm.
his little binder and he's got his little blue wig. And the first thing I did when I saw that, I was like, that right
You're
there.
you're also describing what a lot of people think of Shiver from Splatoon 3.
Yes. Okay. What is
Because
the deal with Splatoon?
hmm?
I've never played Splatoon. What is the deal with Splatoon?
Okay, well, back in the Wii U days, they announced this, and it's like a team-based shooter, but like the main mode is instead of like you don't get points from like killing the other teammates. You get the goal of the game is to use your paint weapons to paint the most territory in the arena by the time the time runs out. There's 4 per each team, and you can each get like in like the in-game shop you can like get weapons, and each weapon has a different sub weapon, and and also a different ultimate weapon. Like the ones I used when I played Splatoon 2, and I gotta get back to the single player stuff, but that's something for another time. It's like, dual pistol thing. There's one weapon that's just, the Nintendo Zapper. Like straight
Okay.
up the Nintendo Zapper.
So
And I
it's an art.
and when you cover the ground in your team's ink, you can swim through it, but you get stuck when you go into the opposing teammate's ink. So it's another incentive to splatter the territory. And like each game is like hosted by like some idols, and they're all ocean life because it's like Pikmin where no one knows what happened to the people. In Splatoon 2, it was Callie and Marie, the Squid Sisters, because Nintendo loves puns, as do we all. And they're just like I guess based off of like Japanese idol singers. There is in Splatoon 2. There's Pearl and Marina. Like like
Okay.
gay like gay like Luca and Alberto from Luca were gay, and that they don't say it, but everyone's like, come on, who are you fooling?
Yes, good.
And in Splatoon 3, the hosts like show the results, like the battle arenas like change per day to day. Like the hosts are, let's see, hoping I pronounced their names right. There's Fry, the one with the big old forehead, who I think is based off of the vampire squid. There is Big Man, who's a big old manta ray who talks in manta ray language. And then there's Shiver, who a lot of people like just thought was non-binary because her pronouns and just general gendered language wasn't used in like the initial like press release stuff, and then it was revealed that the language difference is just, I don't know, terms of personal reference rather than just like straight like pronouns. But yeah, she uses she and her in the game, but this the internet is showing us the world we should have rather than the world we do have, and basically just like headcanon in her because why not?
Mm.
And I mean, just because her design is much different than the other characters, and a lot of people are thinking like the bandages what she's wearing on her chest are like, for binding.
Okay.
It isn't, but people are like, you know what? If you looked at it, you'd be like, yeah, I know where they get it from now. And like they're just generally the best because instead of just like two people with one brain cell hosting Splatoon, and like in the previous, it's like three of them. Is Shiver seems to be the Shiver is like the cool, goofy one. Fry seems to be like the hyperactive, goofy one. From what I know, I don't have it yet. And Big Man's a big old man, and Big Man's like a giant manta ray that can just walk on his 2 feet, and it's just awesome.
I love it.
And yeah, and it's Splatoon, and Splatoon's been the first two Splatoon games have been a smash hit. Just an essential part of Nintendo have for a lot of people. And yep, everyone's excited.
I'm really interested. I'm gonna have to see if I can scrounge up the cash to get it now because this actually sounds like a lot of fun. The only connection I had with Splatoon, admittedly, was a line from the Stupendiums, one of their Animal Crossing songs. The Stupendium does video game songs, obviously, which you knew, but there's a line where it's like, if you can't handle a mess, or if you can't handle the mess, or if you're looking for a mess, best stick with Splatoon. And I was like, oh, okay. And now everybody's been talking about it. I'm like, oh, so it's an art game where you fight with art and ink. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm into it. So what else is at the direct that I, who knows only the most basic Nintendo, should know about?
Let's see. Like I've never played any in this series, but even more life sim games is coming with Rune Factory 3. I think is getting a remaster next year, and a new game in the series is coming out. And like I've never played them, so I can't speak of them. And like those are the ones I've most paid attention to, and like I got momentarily excited when it's announced that they're bringing Resident Evil 8, 7, and 2 and 3 to the Switch, but it's cloud only, which means they need a persistent high-speed internet connection, which just sucks for a lot of people because a lot of people don't have that. So I don't know.
That's frustrating.
Yeah, my dreams of watching Ethan Winters get his hands ripped off portably is out of reach for now. And
What is your hatred towards Ethan Winters? This is
not. It's just that's the most iconic thing that one of the most iconic things that happens to him. I mean,
Oh,
as James Stephanie Sterling accurately pointed out in Resident Evil 7, him getting his arms mutilated was like his primary personality trait.
okay. Okay, I was like, wait, and then I backtracked and I remembered that is correct because that's what infected him with the killer mold. I was not a fan of 8. I mean, well, I was and I wasn't. I liked the concept. I liked the lords were fun. I liked
Yep, that was like that was actually one of the first games I played at the beginning of this year because I spent like the final few days of last year just finally just putting on my big kid clothes and pushing through Resident Evil 7, even though I was like I could literally taste the adrenaline the entire time because I do not do well with horror. Do good with horror, and but I'm glad I did because it's become a new favorite of mine. Just oh gosh, that was just like I like.
What did you think of 8? What did you think of 8?
Um, well, well, like Capcom knew what they were doing because they thought I would buy it for, Vampire Mom, voiced by the very talented Maggie Robertson, and they were right. I loved it. When the video game when the video game community's like favorite trash girl from the gender dumpster talked about it on like their videos, James Stephanie Sterling said is like kind like it was to now what Resident Evil 4 was to then, but I mean it is a lot more actiony than Resident Evil 7, like kind of like Resident Evil 4 was, but it felt a lot more brutal just because we see Ethan get like the shit kicked out of him by life.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was, I mean, if anyone's actually watching this video, just spoilers, but the second major chunk of the game was like one of the scariest things I had ever played through. Like holy shit, I was legitimately terrified. Like because like when we were little, my sister and I were unintentionally traumatized when we like one of our grandmothers turned out to be like a huge horror movie buff back in the day, and we walked in on our brother watching one of the Chucky movies, and that kind of just burned its way into my brain for years. Uh, let's see. So that's one of the first games I played at the beginning of the year, and like another game just because I wanted to give myself tonal whiplash, and because I finally wanted to use it. Something I got for my birthday last year was Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, which is just mwah, the exact tonal opposite of Resident Evil 8, and I just love it because Super Mario 3D World was one of my favorite things on the Switch, and now on the Wii U, and now I can play it on the Switch whenever I want. And now we got Bowser's Fury, which is basically like Bowser as a kaiju.
Yes.
It was just like I don't know, like, and it's weird because Super Mario Odyssey has been out for a while, but it's like open world like Mario Odyssey was, but it played at the controls similar to the 3D world. And like in Bowser's Fury, like they took like the cat gimmick from 3D World and just ran with it because almost all of the enemies and most of the obstacles are just like have cat powers because of course. And and that was just like a platforming delight from start to finish. And just looking at the list of the games I've played from the past year and this year and the beginning of this year, just so we have stuff to talk about. Uh, let's see. Another, yeah, my games of the year that weren't of this year. A game I'm really glad I managed to get with some of my holiday money was Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion.
Okay.
It's, I actually had the pleasure of meeting Yukon, the one of the guys in charge of the game at the Boston Festival of Indie Games some years ago before reality collapsed in on itself. And so I was able to like follow it from like prototype to proof of concept school thing to like full product, and I didn't know it was actually I didn't even know it got a physical release until I was looking at things to buy with my gift card money. Like that's amazing.
Uh-huh.
So it's on the Switch, and I recommend you get it when you have the chance because
Turnip Boy commits tax evasion.
yep. He falls behind on his taxes, so Mayor Onion has him do all the grunt work and collect taxes
God.
from people. And it goes more and more there, and Like they actually just I think last week they announced that they're making a sequel of sorts to it called Turnip Boy Robs a Bank. It's hold on, I got it. Hold on. Is or is that what it's called? Let's see what. Yep, Turnip Boy robs a bank, and it's like according to I'm just gonna read it's coming out next year, but I'm just gonna read you the synopsis to let you know why you should probably buy it when it comes out. Turnip Boy is ready to commit more felonies in this comedic action adventure game with roguelite elements. This time, the career criminal is teaming up with the fearsome Pickled Gang to plan and execute the weirdest heist of all time. Shake down hostages, steal precious valuables, and explore the deep, dark depths of the history of the Botanical Bank. And let's see, to pull off the perfect heist, you'll need to purchase an array of dangerous and wacky tools from the dark web, including a diamond pickaxe, C4, and a radio jammer. However, bank robbing isn't easy, so be prepared for intense shootouts with security guards, the police, elite SWAT teams, and more. So presumably it's like Payday, but you play as food people.
Oh my god. That's
And
amazing.
I mean, I put
You know,
Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion was just a surprise and delight, and from start to
you know
finish.
what
And sorry, you were saying?
no, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was gonna say, you know what that reminds me of? The GTA 6 leak. Did you see that?
Yep. And just
Uh,
and I saw James Stephanie Sterling's Jimquisition about it, and they were pointing out about how most people are reacting the worst possible way because they think it's because as they point out, the game's not coming out for another 2 years.
yeah.
And and there's a girl, a GURL protagonist maybe, and yeah. So I've never really played any of the Grand Theft Auto
Neither,
games, so just
neither have I. I just heard that they were good. The guy was. I'm glad to hear that people are taking it. People might be overreacting a little bit, as well as the studio taking it seriously. Because I heard that if they sell the source code to the stuff, then that's a problem. And the hacker had the source code, so I was like, oh, okay.
yep.
This,
And Rockstar's freaking out naturally, and yeah. Oh, and something I actually forgot. It's coming from the Nintendo Direct. New Fire Emblem game has been announced,
I heard.
and which is finally gonna make me get off my butt and play Fire Emblem Three Houses. And it looks absolutely gorgeous. Like Fire Emblem Awakening on the 3DS is one of my favorite things ever. Like there's this feature in the game where you can summon the spirits of past Fire Emblem protagonists, everyone's favorite boy Marth. And I'm excited. I didn't play Fire Emblem Three Houses when it was out just because I get distracted easily. But I'm definitely gonna get that and Fire Emblem Engage, and if when you look it up, you'll already see the jokes about it because the protagonist has red and blue hair, and everyone's like, oh, it's the toothpaste. It's like the anthropomorphized toothpaste person. And
My
the
friend.
weird thing is, this is the second time this has happened because we also have a character with red and blue hair in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet in the form of Penny, who reminds me very much of Haruhi from Oran High School Host Club.
Oh, this is dope. This is good. This is good news. This is good news. I love the idea of a toothpaste character, and also I love War on High School Host Club. So that
Yeah.
this is another. I have not played. I'm so behind on my games. What would you say is a good component to making a list of games of the year? Like, how do you approach that? Want to play a list of games that you want to play for the year?
Yeah, just mainly the games that came out this year that I actually got around to playing. Oh yeah, Pikmin 4.
Okay.
Shigeru Miyamoto announced Pikmin 4, and I'm excited because Pikmin 3 was, just one of the best buying decisions I made for gaming when it came out on the Wii U. And, just like more of those adorable little plant people. And like what little he showed us, like Lord Miyamoto showed that there might be a mode where you like play like from the perspective of the Pikmin, which I mean like you're very small, smaller than ants, whereas most of the time in the game it's like a top-down, almost RTS style, and it looks beautiful. And who knows what's gonna happen in this one because Pikmin 3, we got the rock Pikmin, which were adorable, and the flying Pikmin, and you play as like 3 space explorers trying to stop their population from, starving to death by harvesting all the fruits what lay around on Earth all the time. And I'm excited. Everyone else, people have been waiting for many years for a new Pikmin game to come out. Excited, but we don't know that much more because we only showed like
The logo.
yeah, basically. But it's out. Like we saw a brief trailer and we know it's coming. It's coming up sometime next year. And I'm excited for it. And
Okay.
yeah.
No, this is good because I like I said, I've always been more of a PlayStation person. So reconnecting with my Switch, since it's the easiest console for me to use, is really smart. Well, was there anything else from the Nintendo Direct that you're hyped about, or something that we missed, or something that you're like against? There we go. That's a good one.
I'm not really against anything. All that's coming out, all that I've said words about is stuff I'm excited for. Now I'm just, oh yeah, they're like a Switch port of Kirby Return to Dreamland is coming to the Switch, so we can have two fantastic Kirby games this year,
Yeah.
and I'm excited. Like they looked like they gave it a bit of a visual punch up, but that was great. Like everybody loved Kirby, like video games favorite baby. And yeah, and like what I was going to do now is maybe just talk about I don't know games we've been playing like this year and like games of the year of past years if you have any.
Oh, I have a game that I'm probably gonna buy.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm probably gonna buy as soon, and it's an older one. Undertale just had its anniversary,
Oh
and
yeah.
my local cosplay cafe is doing an Undertale / them crossover.
Mm-hmm.
Random Gamer delivered a whole bunch of like Undertale things, so I've got it, and I'm probably Undertale, and then I know Deltarune is also a thing that's been playing that people are talking about. So that's on my agenda. Is trying to figure those out, especially because apparently my late lamented Funny Bear Games with their shitty creator, their terrible creator.
Mm-hmm.
Their terrible creator. Apparently, a lot of the people that are into that are also very into Undertale and Deltarune. So I'm gonna definitely be looking into those two games as far as anything else goes, because those look very interesting. Everyone that I know is playing Disney Delight, Disney Dream Valley. And let me tell you something, Debbie. I just can't get into it. I just can't get into it. And it stinks because I see everybody that I know posting screenshots from it. And it's like, oh, you can meet all these characters characters and you live in a magical world. And as Debbie said, folks, I live in that world every day. I clock in and go to that world and I visit it and I meet these people. And so all my friends are so excited about it. And they're like, when are you going to play? And I'm like, I just can't bring myself to. I don't want to. I bring my work home with me enough when I'm watching, She-Hulk and Loki and like all the shows that I love. I bring my work home. It's still, has a connection, but it's a distant one. But still, like it's just everybody's. You can make your own ears, I guess, and you can do quests for people. And I said to my coworker, I said, I'd love to be able to do quests for Mickey Mouse. And then it hit me. I technically do a quest for Mickey Mouse every day when I go to work. I just clock in and, I spend 8 hours and I come back and I actually make some decent money recently. I got a raise. So it's like, hey, I don't necessarily need this 100%, but I guess that's the latest life simulator that everybody's into. I don't know. What do you think? Would you play? Would you play Disney Dream Valley?
I didn't know it was a thing until you just started saying words about it. So maybe. Yeah, let's see. And I've had I'm looking at my latest soon to be completed list of games to play. And I'm just realizing I've had quite a humdinger of a year. Let's see. So yeah, making these lists are like the only way I've been able to like play any of these games. So let's see. I mean, I'll save the actual games of the year for like the end of the year because, of course, like the games of the year, the games that I got around to playing this year. Let's see. I got to finish the second DLC for Doom Eternal, also known as The Adventure of Isabel's Best Friend.
Okay.
Doom guy, and it's just like it's more Doom Eternal, which is great because I want it, and it's like the best kind of violence for someone
I'm
like
waiting
me.
for someone to. I'm waiting for someone to hack Doom and give him an Isabella skin.
Yeah, and let's see. Like a game I heard about but never got a chance to play until like earlier this year is A Short Hike, which you play as like a bird girl just like on a vacation island, and that's about it. And it's like super short. Like you can apparently just like climb to the top of the mountain, which is like the end of the game, quote unquote, in like half an hour. But like part of the fun is just exploring, like finding treasures. You can find golden feathers, which lets you fly around longer. You can make friends with the other giant-headed animal people, and it kind of reminds me of how like the Wind Waker sequels looked on the Nintendo DS, and it's just really nice. And it's basically like you're just walking around being friends with other animal people, and everyone's just like having on vacation, trying to live their best life.
I love
Let's
that.
uh, let's say like a game that like a game that like really surprised me with how friggin' amazing it was Dragon Quest Builders 2, which is like what if a base building game but Dragon Quest.
Okay.
And like the first Dragon Quest Builders game was friggin' fantastic because it's basically like I don't know what it's basically like a what if comic, but it doesn't end after 10 minutes. I say with sarcasm, having read way too many of them when I was younger. It's like, what if the main bad guy from Dragon Quest 1 was actually one? And it's like you think it's just gonna be just, oh, build the thing over here, and it is, but it's also just like sometimes these games just like get real existential about like I don't know, like existence itself and like like the fate that you've been bound to versus like the fate you want to carve for yourself and like existential horror, but with
I
like
love it.
Dragon Quest and let's see, um, let's see, like a game I'm currently wrapping up is the second of the Great Ace Attorney adventures, which are basically like two prequels to the Phoenix Wright games, where you play as his 19th century ancestor Ryunosuke Naruto, which is just it's weird because like these two games are the first time I think ever that like the Phoenix Wright games have acknowledged that Japan is a place that exists. Be- because like I guess like in like the Japanese translation, like it takes place in Japan, but like when it was translated and brought over here, it'd be like, oh, this show this like in universe show that's like based off of things like Kamen Rider or other like tokusatsu shows. Like, oh, that's just a really popular show, or oh, the village where one of Phoenix's best friends live. Oh, this isn't like I don't know, Japan. This is just like an extremely large group of people who made like buildings that looked like almost identical to like old timey Japan buildings when they immigrated over here, and like so on and so forth. And like it's like 19th century, which like I never thought they'd go back that far when if they showed like Phoenix Wright's weird family. But yeah, you play as this Japanese ancestor, and like something I actually didn't like expect to see coming is like when you're in like the trials, just like there's just like a lot of the characters just have a lot of like you know disturbingly casual racism towards the Japanese. Like,
What? Wait. Ugh.
well, it's not written by racist, but the characters were written as racist, to clarify. And it's just like really just weird because, like Phoenix Wright games are always like, what if a criminal trial just got really freaking weird and it actually like delves into issues like it takes place at like a point in history where like Britain and Japan really want to get along and don't want anything like that happen that would cause them to not get along.
Right.
And sorry, you go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I'm just listening. I'm listening because honestly, like I was not aware that the two prequels existed. I knew that I know Phoenix, right?
Well,
Obviously.
they were like Japan only for the longest time, but they were like finally ported over, and like all the Ace Attorney fans were like, "Frickin' finally, hook it
Yeah.
up to my veins," and that's probably gonna be all that tied us over because it's been like quite a while before. It's been like many years since like another installment in the series is, and uh, just like it's just really weird because like in the latest Phoenix Wright games, where like Phoenix is in his like he started out like I think he was like in the very first game he was like 23 and like relatively fresh out of law school,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and in like the latest game Spirit of Justice he's in his like mid 30s and he tries to like whenever like you play as like three different you play as like him, Apollo Justice, one of the lawyers what works for his office, and Athena Sykes, the other lawyer what works for his office.
I
And
like
like yeah, Athena's my favorite character too. But he tries to like something that Phoenix and his ancestor Ryunosuke have in common is like they try and like act like serious minded adults, but then you realize that like in the Phoenix Wright game, Phoenix becomes like friends, and then like he becomes like best friends and like surrogate father figure, and then like an actual father figure to his adopted child. But like everyone just like almost every character at one point or another acts like how I did in third grade before I went on ADHD medication. Like they're
Every
just wacky. They're just like, "Hey, boss, look at this like fake sword. I wonder what it'll be like if I hit you with it." It'd be like, "No." Like like in like the previous game in the series, Dual Destinies, which is the premiere, which is where he introduced like best girl Athena, who's basically like, I don't know, presumably what most of the people I know would be like if they drank coffee. Like there's the game is like in non is kind of in non-linear order, but like the first time she meets Apollo, the red one, as you'll know if when you look this up, is like
yes,
she gets accosted by the police because no one believes that an 18-year-old is a lawyer, because in Phoenix Rightland, like a lot of people can just like breeze right through like legal licensing and all that, and so she like judo flips a police officer and then it just lands right on Apollo, and that's how the two of them first met, and it's hilarious. And but yeah, the Great Ace Attorney Adventures, it's a combination of visual novel and like point and click adventure, hidden object type game. And
I
like
always thought of. I always thought Phoenix Wright looked like Ash, an older Ash Ketchum.
yeah, and what
I mean, like,
button,
what if they turned out to be related? That was always my inner joke.
and yeah, and Phoenix Wright, like much like Luca in the movie Luca, where it's not explicitly gay, but you're just like, come the hell on, who are you fooling? Like, there's like just so much like fan everything about him and like his main rival slash best friend slash childhood friend, like Edgeworth, who's like one of the chief prosecutors in the game.
Yep.
And like it just like earlier this summer when like my cousins came in to visit, like my younger cousin who's like it's like a teenager who just got into like the Phoenix Wright games herself. Like we were talking about the Phoenix Wright games because we're both like gaming nerds, and she was just basically like Edgeworth, Phoenix's boyfriend, and I'm just like the next generation is gonna be fine. Uh,
Okay.
it's like I mean, just like in every like Phoenix, Apollo, and Athena, each one of them has like one other character that like you are gay for that person, and nothing you can say will tell your target audience otherwise.
Well, I mean, the way that they act and the way that we don't rely on
Eh,
tropes in this community, but honestly, it's pretty damn obvious. That to me furthers my theory that Phoenix Wright is Ash's father, because we all know that Ash has a lot to discover about himself. Poor baby.
yeah, let's say just to like further just punch this home, like and like the Apollo Justice game, it's is the game that takes place right after like the original trilogy, where you play like primarily as Apollo. Like the prosecutor he goes up against and just interacts with the most is Clavier Gavin. Like he's not only just like this possibly but not entirely this ambiguously German prosecutor who's just like he's tan, he's got like a rock star jacket, because in addition to being like a high ranking prosecutor, he's also like has a band staffed exclusively by other legal officials, because of course. And
Obviously.
yeah, and he appears again a little bit in Dual Destinies to help out Apollo and Athena when they're like on a case. And while he doesn't appear in Spirit of Justice, there's this one scene where he goes backstage to, for like Trucy, Phoenix Wright's daughter, which is just weird to think about, but just Phoenix is like one of those characters that we all know is like just man can't stop unintentionally adopting children.
Precisely.
But there's this like Trucy the magician like was left flowers by like Gavin, and then like Athena was like, "Hey Apollo, you really get all flustered whenever prosecutor Gavin comes up," and he's like, "Really? I didn't notice." And you're like, "Come on." And then
Such a
and
nice pressure for me. It's
sorry.
No, I was gonna say this is why the Pumpkin Copter cast is good, because I never remember these things from like that like I dabbled in, and Phoenix in the legal system is one of my favorites.
And yeah, and then in like Dual Destinies, which is Athena's premier game, she has to represent her childhood best friend Juniper, and like they call each other like Thena and Junie, and it's just like adorable. And there's just like, and that's all I'll say, because the game, like, you just have to find that out for yourself, because the game is just like solid gold, and just like it's like great. Well, since the game is like 99% text, because it's like most of the time it's like a visual novel, like if like you're basically just like marinating in these characters' personalities, and you get to know them so dang well by the end of the game. You're like, these are like people that I'd be best friends with if they were real. And like,
Yeah.
looking back at, I mean, while we're thinking of games of the year for this year, saving that for December, I'm looking at some of my games of the year of last year, and like I'm thinking of this, like I'm remembering this now because a few weeks ago I finally finished watching Moon Knight,
Okay.
and it just because and the game we're talking about is Psychonauts 2, and
Psychonauts.
and
Okay.
like Moon Knight automatically reminds me of that, because when that show came out, you were just like talking big about how it does like the mental health stuff good, and Psychonauts 2 is pretty much all mental health stuff, because you literally go into people's brains and like beat the shit out of their personal demons. And like I remember
That's what
Double
makes it a
Fine.
good game.
Yeah, like Double Fine, like at the beginning of when you boot it up for the first time, they say like Psychonauts 2 is literally about like people's like mental issues. It's like the game is like 90% like visual representations of like people's mental health issues. So like they mention, things like, I don't know, depression, dissociative identity disorder a bit, and just mental health stresses and all that. Like one level is basically like you helping a person like dealing with sensory overload.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and like a lot of these characters have just had like a real like a really rough life. Like I don't want to give any of it away, because like half of the fun is like, oh, fun platforming, and like, oh, this fun platforming is like a representation of this person's like really deep mental scarring, like in the first game.
Do you know what's funny is you're talking about deep mental scarring, and you just reminded me of a game that I've been trying to work through that is both causing mental scars for me and that does deal with them a little bit, and that's Cult of the Lamb
Oh
on
yeah, that game just came out.
on Nintendo. And So the basic premise is for the folks at home. The basic premise is you play as a sacrifice. You play as a former sacrifice who has been chosen by an ancient god to start your own cult. And you're this adorable little lamb, and you get these horrific, like you're this adorable, totally cute little lamb, and you get this massive sword or this like pointy dagger, and then you get godlike powers, and you basically just have to charge through this forest saving villagers and saving other sacrifices. And you have to do everything from feed them to build temples in your cult's honor, to building them houses, to preaching sermons and conducting rituals. And it is the most complicated life simulator game I have ever played in the history of playing. But the imagery and everything else is like awesome. It's awesome imagery. It's mystical and satanic. And then but it really just leaves you with like, what are these things? The deeper you get, like, what are these things doing to these poor little woodland creatures? And it's the worst because you can make your own cults, and you can name them, and you can name your followers after beings in these cults, Debbie. So I have a cult of work, and many of them are my coworkers. And then I have the cult of late lamented bear game Fazbear Entertainment, and I named all the little creatures after characters in that series. And the more creatures that I get, I'm going to name them after Bendy characters, and that's a whole other kettle of fish. So I have all these. You get all these little animals, and when you fail to please an animal, because you have to do a whole bunch of things for them, they point at you and they go, "Deceiver, I have seen through your lies and your falsehoods. I know the truth behind your cult." And I'm like, damn, tiny little horse. All I wanted to do was give you little soup and make sure that you didn't get eaten by the creepy squid. But damn, all right. So it's a really funny, but also like difficult and scarring little game. Not nearly. Psychonauts is one of those things where it's like that game is essential. But Cult of the Lamb, you just reminded me of it with that. Somehow, maybe my own mental health issues coming out right there. Oh. But that's just because I was nostalgic for Stardew. I was nostalgic a little bit for Animal Crossing, so I went to go play Satanic Animal Crossing.
Yep, and yeah, let's see what other games are coming out this year. Coming out in 2020. Let's see. Oh yeah, they showed more stuff for Bayonetta 3. And on the Direct, also known as, or as most other people know it, Lesbians the Game. Because we got Bayonetta, the lesbian one has guns. We got her friend Jean, who has a motorcycle, and a new character who's got a big old sword. And, I thought Bayonetta 1 was okay, but I'm excited for Bayonetta 2 because it looks even more bonkers. And then we got Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. And
Mario plus Rabbids. Okay.
yeah, Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle back in 2017, like that was my game of the year in 2017 because, it's Mario and the Rabbids, which are basically like the minions but if rabbits, but it's also just like a turn-based strategy game. And like for the first time ever, Mario just like uses what is basically a gun, and you have to plan out your movements and line up your shots and like buy like this weird grid-based strategy game, and it's just bonkers. And Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope is like, I don't know, adding more to it. And yeah, there's also a lot of games that came out this year that I actually want, that I didn't get to play, that I hope to play. Let's say a game I didn't really get a chance to play of very much when I was at PAX earlier was Tiny Tina's Wonderland.
That game is amazing. I have to hook you up with my friend Ben because Ben would love to come on the show and talk about Overwatch and talk about Tiny Tina's Wonderland. Tiny Tina's Wonderland is pretty much canonically the gayest game in the
Yep.
not Overwatch. Gayest game in the Borderlands series. Not Overwatch. Overwatch is and a whole other but
Borderlands has done a pretty good job at getting like progressively gayer as the time has gone by. Because in Borderlands 3 we got, Sir Hammerlock married his boyfriend Wainwright, and I don't know, which is just, it's really funny because in the game Wainwright is like, I don't know, what if you just googled the word Southern gentleman and uh, and then you just like put it in a 3D printer, you'd get him.
oh my god.
And just one of the DLC campaigns is just you going to and helping set up their wedding, and then shenanigans ensue because it's Borderlands.
See, Ben's whole thing was he broke down, and I wish I could remember more details, but in Tiny Tina's Wonderland, he broke down the story of the gay pirates and how in love they were, and how basically their entire level is just a very gay in love Pirates of the Caribbean ride. And it is one of my favorite, possibly. Here I am saying that, but I can't remember their names. It's just a very sweet idea that like they both the one ended up killing the other, but then they both became skeletons, and your whole goal is to kind of set them free. Was very sweet, very sweet.
And then
Part of the game.
Borderlands 3, I'd probably need to like Google. I'm gonna Google this right now because like Borderlands 3 was also like one of my games of the year of 2019, and yeah, one of the characters in it, Lorelei, and like in that part of the game, which you play as, it takes place in like a ruin, what I can only describe as a really broken and really shiny city. Let's see if I can actually find this. Oh yeah, here it is. Let's see, Lorelei. Yep. At some point, I can't know. At some point between now and then, she's confirmed. Like the character of Lorelei was confirmed as non-binary. I think first by the person what voice acted her, like trans voice actor. I don't know how to say this name. I apologize if you're listening to this. Like Syrian Strange or Kyrian Strange.
Period.
Caira with a accent mark N
Mm.
Strange. Like basically just confirm. Yeah.
I see. I really think it's Kyrian, but that's just me.
Yeah, and like that was nice. Like the voice actor confirmed it before like the game made it official. Like there's Moxie, like who just as the franchise has progressed has just become like the most horny pansexual ever. And like like if you walk around like in Borderlands 2, like you walk around the hub, you'll just like most of like the non-named characters you like run into will be like, has Moxie said anything about me? And like a lot of like the Vault Hunter characters you play as will just like straight up flirt with her, and that's always funny. Well, just because it's Borderlands where everything can go from like sassy to you just got shot a bunch very quickly. And like the character one of the playable characters, Flack, the Beastmaster, like is a robot that's confirmed to like use they them pronouns and is voiced by, this was a surprise to me, voiced by the very talented Sungwon Cho or ProZD on his YouTube channel, which now next time I play the game, I'm definitely going to play as them. And... Oh, what? Yeah, go ahead.
No. I was just listening.
Yeah.
But folks at home, if I seem quiet, it is less because I am not thinking of I don't have anything to say, and more because I'm genuinely trying to take in what Debbie is saying, because Debbie is my go-to gal for video game news and knowledge, especially with titles that I should know about. So this is why you should be listening to the Pumpkin Copter cast, because Debbie is the person who I know knows what she's talking about. So that's just straight up facts. Go ahead, put that on the reel.
Yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, a game I was think a game I was gifted last year that I kept in like the back of my mind. I mean, this episode has basically just become an epilogue to our Pride episode or a few months ago. Actually, no, something I wanted to like. She didn't like a character I wanted to talk about since they didn't start as a video game character, but the franchise as such become like online gaming, like Yu-Gi-Oh, one of my other hyperfixations that I will never shut up about if you let me talk about it.
Okay.
That's like online gaming. Like it's gotten like an online stuff, kind of like Hearthstone and all that. And the character I wanted to talk about just because they're like the best designed character. Uh, like just the character that stuck out the most in my mind when I saw her the very first like like in Yu-Gi-Oh, like it's like just a bunch of separate shows. There's like the first Yu-Gi-Oh, then there's Yu-Gi-Oh GX, the second show in the franchise, and in that you meet like demonic best girl Yubel, and like kind of like with Vivian from Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, the game I will one day write a book about when they finally like port it to the Switch so I can actually play it again. Like
Excellent.
I'm adding this asterisk of in Japan because when this character was like localized, they kind of like straight up like censored and changed a lot about it. Like Yubel is like canonically like non-binary and intersects in both like the modern use of the term and in the fact and like I get this might just be an unintentional pun, but like intersection, but because Yubel's body like straight up looks like if you just like mashed two people's bodies together because of her like needlessly complicated backstory because it's Yu-Gi-Oh and you think it's just going to be about card games, but it's also about just like cosmic fantasy and cosmic horror. But like her backstory, what
With
sorry?
with the aliens and the demonic gods and stuff involved in it. Yeah.
So like and like I don't like again. I'm not sure this was like brought up in like the American like side of Yu-Gi-Oh GX because it was just why would they just but and like oh yeah, reincarnation's also a thing in this, but like in a past life, like Yubel is like is explicitly male, and then sometime between like reincarnating and turning into a demon thing like in like in the Japanese anime, like well in the Japanese anime like they maybe I don't know it's not clear because like they kind of like butchered the translation, like they switch from like masculine to feminine voice in like that spooky way when anime like puts two voices on top of each other at the same time.
I am
and
familiar with this.
and hold on, let me just find a picture and put it in our chat so I can better illustrate my point. Like, and if any of you are still watching this, like, unless I'm actually interviewing a game dev about their game. Like, this is basically how it goes. Like, just me going on long rants, like, and
Me, well, and if I'm guesting, I'm learning things.
like, and if you see their body is like, half like they have like half their body is like, a pec, half of it is like a breast, but like in the like the American version, they just gave her like two breasts just because, just like demons and like stealing people's souls, and like the one arc where like someone formed like a like an actual cult, uh and just you can't see like the legs because the card doesn't show all of it, but like traditionally like masculine and feminine leg, and like maybe the arms like too. And it's just I just thought it was really interesting because you don't really see a lot of anime do that. And she's just like, oh, and like she's also like a card in the real life card game, and like their effects are also weird because like in the game she also turns into like a two-headed dragon, and then more of a two-headed dragon because it's freaking Yu-Gi-Oh! There's gonna be demons and shit in it. And like I just thought it was really interesting because just like Ubel and then Vivian were like the first time little old me was like, I don't know, like none, like what I thought was the first time I realized there's like, I don't know, maybe it's not just two things. And it
Maybe
stuck
it's
out because I thought it was just I thought it was like a lot of people just think like Ubel is good representation that was like censored, and also she just looks freaking awesome. Like
yeah, she
one of
does.
the best freaking design. Like I almost forgot about the two different like haircut, the two different hairstyles, the freaking big old demon eye, the two different eye colors representing the fact that she was at least two people in a past life. Like friggin' demony bat wings. I guess I thought it was awesome.
Would you cosplay her?
I would not know where to get. I do not have that sort of budget, and I'm not really sure I could pull that off.
What are you gonna be? Okay, not to turn tail from awesome costume, or not to turn tail from awesome Yu-Gi-Oh! Demon discussions. Just out of curiosity, though, what are you gonna be for Halloween?
I have no idea. Like, I don't know anything about like cosplaying at all. Like, I chose Big Debbie because the person what made the cartoon that I essentially created my own like online persona about uh basically just looks like, I don't know, me if I was 8 feet tall, and it was just like all I had to do was buy like a straw hat, like a blue and white picnic table type of shirt and blue jeans, and then like the first time I cosplayed as them at PAX South before PAX South closed forever because life has to take everything, big and small,
Uh,
from us. Like I would just like hand out like oatmeal cream pies and zebra cakes to various convention goers. And if I may go on a further tangent, like this was like the first year I cosplayed as her and just cosplayed as them and cosplayed as in general. Like I had my basket full of like little Debbie goodies, which I was able to like actually carry through the airport, like just due to sheer luck. And one of the people I met was, and like I've never run into like this couple again, but I will never ever forget it. Like this nice woman like comes up and be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And be like, told her like what I was like cosplaying like as a character, and be like, "My husband used to be a Little Debbie salesperson."
no.
Like
That's
straight up. and then I showed them like the cartoon that made me like cosplay as the character, and so
That's
if I actually go
adorable.
out and about town, it'll probably be as Big Debbie again, just because it's the easiest. And then like a year or so later, I just bought the Infinity Gauntlet and made that like a signature accessory, just because I just think that's like a really funny contrast.
That's
But
the best part, though. That's awesome. That's a really cool story. That's really cute.
and then over the course of several years, I just basically created like this own original character family, which I just have like actual physical artwork from artists I commissioned, because it's just getting out of control.
No,
Uh,
it's creative. It's
yeah,
being creative. So but at the very least, I hope we see. I want to see Big Debbie again coming back for Halloween.
yeah.
Um,
And if I had to, but not sure if I'll cosplay her as her this year, because I need to actually learn how to like make props. I'll probably need to like take classes and like contact my friends who actually make stuff like this for a living. But to circle back to like stuff I bought with gift card money that's not about Turnip Boys committing tax evasions. I also got Wild Guns Reloaded, which is I guess like a Super Nintendo game from back in the day, where you play as these like Western outlaws bringing justice to this cowpoke town. But because video games, you use like you're fighting against people who have you're fighting against like armies of robots and giant robots. And in Wild Arms Reloaded, there was a new character. They like introduced like two new characters, and one of them, I'll post a picture of her right here. An eventual cosplay goal is Doris, who's basically like Big Debbie in the sense that both of them are like very buff gingers, and like in the game, like each character has like different weapons, and her thing is that she just like gets up and she just like picks up and like hurls bombs like discus style. And if I could ever figure out how to make those weird metal gauntlets, like that is a goal to shoot for. And I guess my yeah, and just to see
I love that. Oh my God, she looks amazing. Oh
uh
my God, Debbie, you got her. That's freaking fantastic.
yep, I just as soon as I know anything about costumes.
Well, girl, let me reach out to you. Let me reach out to you. I will point you in the direction of some tutorials perhaps that can help. And then, I know that you have other friends that could do that. But if you ever have any questions, do not profess to be an expert, but I definitely do have, like, I definitely could point you in the direction of those things. Like,
Oh,
you're
thank you.
doing. Yeah, of course. I'm always trying. I love trying to help people out and mentioning stuff and mentioning
And
people that I think are on top of it. That's why I like being on this podcast. That's why I'm always available as a guest, if my schedule permitting, so that I can at the very least talk to you about, like, Deltarune, Undertale, and those other sorts of games. um
and like my other and the other eventual like I don't know cosplay goal, because again this will just be like the easiest, I feel like relatively easy to do, is cosplay as everyone's childhood friend Najimi from
Najimi.
Komi Can't
Yes.
Communicate. Also this I don't know, like what you get if you take a non-binary person and you fill the part of the brain where the binary would be with I don't know, being just being a sower of chaos, because that's what they do. Uh, yeah, so that's another eventual cosplay goal, if I can just Like, the key part would just be, how can I get that annoying?
You just have to look to me as a solid example. just
And
just think in your head, go, Carol, yeah, that's how I need to act.
yep, and let's see, and yeah, and with that, we'll bring this particular episode of the Pumpkin Copter Cast to the conclusion. I would like to thank Carolyn,
Yeah,
Barney from Paranormal Park, for
thank you.
joining me.
Yes,
Uh,
indeed.
yeah, and Carolyn, if like anyone has actually been listening to this like incoherent ramble, be like, how can I follow them? Like, what can you like? Where can the peoples follow you on this Bill's internet?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Carolyn in Fandom. That's capital CAROLYNIN and then capital FANDOM. I am attempting to start a Marvel horror news Twitter feed. So if you're looking for fun Twitter things to follow, you can follow me at Werewolf by News. Right now we're focusing on Werewolf at Night. Or Werewolf by Night. Werewolf by Night, the story of Jack Russell and his tortured relationship with the beast within. Mostly because I believe that monsters are an intense trans allegory, and I constantly work to
I know
reclaim.
who that is now.
Who? Werewolf by Night?
No, the character what you just mentioned, because like he was in. This was years ago, but back before Marvel Zombies like wore out its welcome, like he was like Marvel Zombies 4 was, the characters in the main Marvel universe hunting down like Marvel Zombies what escaped, and it was Morbius, Damian Hellstrom,
Mm-hmm. And Jack Russell.
yeah, and Jack Russell. So, yep. And
He's coming to Disney Plus with a Disney Plus special.
oh
So,
yeah.
like I said, follow me on Twitter at Werewolf by News, all capital letters. And that's pretty much what I've been up to, just mostly podcasting and trying to set up my cards so that I can keep writing and finding out a couple of other stuff.
Yeah, and if you enjoyed this and you want to hear more of it, you can like, rate, comment, subscribe. Please subscribe. Uh yeah, and when I'm not rambling incoherently with a friend of mine about whatever topic catches my fancy, I'm usually just like interviewing indie game devs mostly. So yeah.
And there you
And
go.
so yeah, if you like indie game devs, like small streamers and gaming YouTubers and stuff like that, if that gets your fancy, then this is the podcast for you. Uh, and if you want to hear me ramble about something more coherently, and you want to be like, hey, does Carolyn ever talked with this weird redheaded person in another show? You can go to your podcast platform of choice and look for Gotta Recap 'Em All, where my friend Tom and I are slowly, very slowly, oh gosh, uh,
You mean amazing?
recapping the
Yeah,
entire
amazing.
anime canon. We recap the hundreds of adventures of Ash Ketchum, who, as Carolyn has pointed out, and as I will die on this hill, is either not straight, not cis, or both. And, uh, definitely not straight, considering, in Pokemon X and Y, Serena straight up has a crush. It just admitted she had a crush on him, and we know for a fact that his current traveling buddy Go, he definitely has a crush on him. Like, if you're
Yep.
just trying to, you're not fooling anyone. And there's like the recurring gag of like once a series where just Ash just kept getting like thrown into this like forced forced, quote unquote, into increasingly elaborate dresses that, make you wonder, like, is this what it would be like if Downton Abbey was an anime?
It's true.
Like, this is just something I'm just gonna keep rambling about because it just, like, it keeps happening. Like, once a series, it keeps happening, and I'm just like, come on, Ash, it's 2022. The writers have got to be trying to tell us something at this point.
Precisely.
And
Gotta recap them all. It's good, guys. Everybody go check it out. Gotta recap them all. My personal seal of approval.
And, at the time of me saying this particular set of words, Tom and I are just 2 episodes away from being done with the Orange Island arc and going into Pokemon Johto. And if you thought it took us a long time to cover the Kanto arc, wait till we get to this one. Because, this is where, and, like, the Pokemon adventures get weirder and the Pokemon movies get real weird. Like, the first 2 that we watched, like, those were relatively grounded. Like, wait till you get to the 3rd movie, or the 4th movie, or the 5th movie, or just, or that one movie where God, who is a horse, literally destroys all of creation, and Ash has to go back in time and stop that from happening. Or the one where all of the legendary Pokemon fight each other kaiju style, but it gets more intense because they're all basically gods. So, yeah, you can find that on your podcast platform of choice, and you can follow me on the Twitters at tgorman83, where I'm either desperately trying to get people to watch this show, desperately trying to get people to, like, listen to Gotta Recap Them All, or just, like, I don't know, just randomly tagging people like Carolyn and other friends of mine into random photos and being like, hey, that's us.
That's because it's true, and it is us. It is us, because Debbie is awesome. And Debbie, I will be more than happy to come on this or Gotta Recap Them All anytime.
Well, thank you. And, that brings us to the conclusion of this episode. And as I say at the end of every show, have a gourd day, everyone.
Bye-bye.